Okie dokie. Well, I wanted to welcome everybody to the Habits of Health Lifestyle Hutchinson meeting. And today we're going to be talking about wheat belly. Lose the wheat, lose the belly, like this gal did, for example. And this is kind of what we're all heading towards. We want to get down there where we're thin and healthy and strong and pretty and everything. So, all right, now let's get my presentation going here. Lose the weight, lose the belly. All right. Of course, first thing I want to do is talk about this PowerPoint's got some personal testimonies of independent health coaches and clients, and every person is unique. Every person is different. We cannot guarantee like or similar outcomes. Keep in mind that these presentations are mine, and I've derived them from many health professionals and sources. And today, the health professional is Dr. William Davis, not the one we know, but another one who's a cardiologist and an author and a health guru, you might say. They're not substitutes for professional medical advice, and I recommend you consult with a physician before starting a weight loss program. Yours in health, Coach Fred and Coach Bill. Okie dokie. All right, talking about wheat belly, and this is Dr. Davis here, and he calls wheat the unhealthy whole grain. And why are we unwittingly are we victims of a grand genetic experiment gone sour? Well, we're going to look into that and see. And I got a little short video of him here at the beginning, and he kind of talks about it. And then I have another one that covers a little bit more in detail towards the end. At least I think I still have it on there. I change things quite often.
It's a simple fact. Wheat products, such as 2 slices of whole wheat bread, raise your blood sugar higher than nearly all other known foods, thereby treating this thing I call a wheat belly. Well, I got started with the wheat belly conversation a number of years ago, just because I became so frustrated with the number of people who were pre-diabetic or diabetic coming to my office for heart disease prevention. Well, I started out with a very simple observation, and that is, wheat products, such as whole wheat bread, raise your blood sugar higher than nearly all other known foods. And so I'd have patients take wheat out of their diet. They'd come back 3 months later, 30 pounds lighter. Their blood sugars did indeed drop from the diabetic or pre-diabetic range, but it was all the other things they'd started to tell me, such as their asthma had improved so much that they stopped 3 inhalers. Their rheumatoid arthritis improved, their ulcerative colitis improved, their acid reflux went away, their irritable bowel syndrome got better, the rash of 8 years disappeared, on and on and on. It became clear, the more I heard these stories, that this was not an accident, this was not a coincidence, this was real, and that people were experiencing incredible improvements in health just by the elimination of this thing being sold what's called wheat. Wheat can be addictive. It's a simple matter that there's a protein unique to wheat called gliadin. Now, gliadin is converted to, oddly, a morphine-like compound that has the capacity to cross into the brain and bind to the morphine receptors. Now, that causes a need for more. It increases your desire for more wheat. It increases your desire for other foods. In effect, the gliadin protein of wheat is an appetite stimulant. So people who consume wheat want more food. They consume more, they need more, and it's an unending effort to always feed that monster. And so the way to turn it off is to stop eating the source of gliadin protein, that is, stop eating wheat. What have you got to lose except your man breasts, your bagel butt, your wheat belly? Need I say more?
Get it, move along. Okay, lose the wheat, lose the belly. I'm going to talk a little bit about how our breads and wheat come along. Of course, humans have been eating wheat for 10, 12,000 years, maybe longer. In the Middle East, it was grasses that they could harvest and eat the grains. And it was also very prevalent in the Bible. It's the Bible times. Now, the wheat that they had in Bible times, or the flour that they used in the Bible times, was a little different than the original what the older humans found. But and explain a little bit about that. The grasses that our ancestors first used was called einkorn, and it had 14 chromosomes. Now, we as humans have 46 chromosomes, and when a man and woman get together and have a child, their 46 chromosomes, they combine, but they don't add. So in other words, your child doesn't have 92 chromosomes. It has 46, just like you and I. Plants are different. The einkorn here has 14 chromosomes, and if it's combined with another grass, and that's what they did, they come up with a product that was a little bit better than the einkorn, and that was called emmer. It combined and it actually added the two together, so they had 28 chromosomes on emmer, and that's what they had during the Bible times and then in the medieval times. Then they took that and they combined it with another grass, and they ended up with a wheat that had 42 chromosomes. Tritium is one, and the other ones I'm not sure of, but they're just a little bit better. They produced better. They were able to get more flour out of it, and so it turned out to be a better wheat. Now, back in the 50s and the 60s, you might remember that this world worried about a human population was growing so fast that they was going to run out of food. And it was a very real concern. But Norman Borlaug, he was a scientist who specialized in wheat, and so he wanted to make a better wheat. So what he did, he worked on it with several others, a lot of universities, governments, they all kind of helped. But what he was able to do was come up with semi-dwarf wheat. It's smaller, has a sturdier stalk, and the heads were really humongous. So they were actually able to take this wheat and put it into other places like Pakistan and India and places like that, where they have a lot of people, and they were able to take this shortage that the people have and turn it into a surplus within a very short period of time, because this wheat could produce 8 to 10 times as much as the wheat that they had to start with. So that kind of helped as far as the human population is concerned, not going to run out of food for a while. It's a lot shorter, but the heads are very big. Now, a little bit of information about what goes on here. When they did this, of course, part of wheat kernels is something called gluten, and a lot of people are allergic to or affected by gluten. You probably know that or heard that. A good percentage of people have a gluten intolerance and they don't even know it. But here's 7 symptoms of gluten intolerance, and that some of them are diarrhea and constipation, fatigue, headaches, brain fog, you could call it that, nausea, bloating, abdominal pain, fatigue, nausea, headaches, all these kind of things. Some of these are caused by gluten. And it's not just as simple to just use gluten-free products, because when they make gluten-free products, they take the things out of it that cause the problem, but they put other things in there that are just as bad as having them in there in the first place. They use rice starch, they use potato starch, tapioca starch, that type of thing. Something they add back into it, and it has the carbs in there, and it's just as bad, if not worse than what the gluten was originally. So it's found in everything as the problem. It's even found in Twizzlers, soups, everything has wheat in it. And you can look on the label, it'll have ingredients, and usually wheat is second or third one listed. So you want to be real careful about that if you're gluten intolerant. And the thing about it is, are we addicted to bread? And the reason this comes about is that what we have here is gluten, and gluten is made up of two proteins. One is glutenin, and the other one is gliadin. I forget how to pronounce that. And I'll listen to it 13, 14 times today, and I'm still missing it. But this glutenin this is what makes your dough where you can stretch it, you can roll it out. It's something that is unique to wheat. And the other one is gliadin. I think it's gliadin. And what it is, it's something that processes your blood sugars, and it takes it to the brain. It has the ability to take the blood sugars in your blood and change it into an opioid like product that can cross the brain blood membrane and goes to the opioid centers. Now, like if you're doing if a person does heroin, they get loopy, have no control over their thoughts or impulses, that type of thing. If you're doing another one, if you're doing some opioids, or pain, they keep you from feeling pain. But this one, it doesn't do either one of those. Gliadin goes into your opioid centers, and it makes you crave. It makes you crave to wanting more wheat or more carbs or whatever it is you're eating. It has that in it. So that's the problem. It wants you to eat more and more and more. Like when you even eat a pizza and you can turn around and eat some more ice cream right on top of it because you're still hungry, even though you're full. Now here's a chart that shows back in the early 70s when they developed this wheat, and then they started using it in all the products. You see that the obese line goes up drastically. And you notice also that the extremely obese line starts up at that point too, and it goes up not as rapidly, but quite a bit. So this is the problem. And so and what he said after he studied all this with his patients and everything, it looks like we're being fed an appetite stimulant that comes from the breads. Now, you've seen this before. This is the obesity chart. This is the stroke rate. And you notice they all go along with the obesity chart. And of course, we know that inflammation and blood sugars, we know where inflammation comes from. It comes from the blood sugars. And we talked about the glycemic index before. When you have a low glycemic index food, then your insulin levels are lower. And this is just overall better for her, because when you have high glycemic foods, the blood spikes immediately, and then the insulin pump kicks in, and then it starts storing the fat into your cells. And so that's kind of what goes on there. And I've talked to him before about Dr. Jenkins at the University of Toronto. He's the one that did the studies on the glycemic index. And what they do, they took a thin person, and they would give them a teaspoon of sucrose, which is sugar, and then they'd find out how much what his blood levels would read, and then they would take another food like whole wheat bread and have them eat that. And what they found out that the whole wheat bread would actually be like more than having a teaspoon of sugar. It would a higher glycemic index is what I'm trying to say there. And what they tell us is to eat more complex carbohydrates. That's what the nutritionist says, but they don't tell you that the amylopectin A in wheat is highly digestible. So that complex carbs doesn't always work. Now this shows that the 72 on the whole wheat bread, if you were to have 2 slices of whole wheat bread, it's the same thing as having 6 teaspoons of sugar. That soak in. Okay. Now what happens when you lose the wheat? Elimination of wheat does these things right here. It helps you lose weight dramatically, and it reduces your appetite because you're not eating the wheat, and it's no longer crossing over into the opioid centers. So you have less of food obsession. Your blood sugars are reduced. It reduces your joint pains. And of course, some of these things aren't going to show up right away, but they'll show up over a period of time, because you're going to have to get some of the bad stuff out of your body first. Reduces inflammation. And C-reactive protein. Now, what C-reactive protein is, it gives you an average reading over about a 3-month period of what your inflammation runs at. And so if you go in and see your doctor and your blood sugars are real good, but your C-reactive protein's really high, he knows that you just cut off on the eating before you come in to see him. He's going to know that. It reduces blood pressure, reduces triglycerides, increases your HDL, cholesterol, and reduces the small LDL, and that's the improvements you want to have. Increased energy, improved sleep, less acid reflux, and irritable bowel symptoms. So those are the things it does to help improve it. So what do you eat? If you want to stay away from you want to stay away from, first of all, any wheat products and anything that's anything that processed foods. You want to stay away from the no gluten-free products, because like I explained, they have other things in there that runs your blood sugars up. And so you want to stay away from, everybody got all excited about, well, I'll just eat gluten-free products. Well, it don't work that way, because they put other things in those gluten-free products that are also bad for your health. The other things are vegetables, raw nuts, meats and eggs, oils, of course, the healthy oils, and then cheese and other dairy. But of course, don't want to eat cheese or dairy if you're on the 5-in-1 for the best results. Now here's another short little video. He explains a little bit more about it.
Welcome back, author Dr. Bill Davis of Wheat Belly. Lose the weight, lose the wheat joins me now in studio. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Good morning.
Welcome to Vancouver. And I know you're here for a convention, but this book, Wheat Belly, has certainly become part of the common vernacular recently. Everyone's talking about it. As a cardiologist, what on earth made you write a book about wheat?
Well, wheat has changed, Lynn. The wheat of today is nothing like the wheat of 40 years ago. I was worried with my patients in my heart disease prevention practice that so darn many of them have diabetes or pre-diabetes at the start, and you can't have that situation and have control over heart disease risk. So I wanted to give a tool to people, give them better control over blood sugar. So I use a very simple fact, and that is the glycemic index of whole wheat is among the highest of all foods, such that 2 slices of whole wheat bread raise blood sugar higher than 6 teaspoons of table sugar. A lot of people don't know that. That's a simple fact.
A lot of people find that very shocking.
Yeah, and it's in all tables of glycemic index. I'm not a genius for figuring this out. So I asked people to take wheat out of their diet to reduce blood sugar. They did it. They come back 3 months later, 30 pounds lighter, 3 inches off their waist. And they started telling me all these incredible stories that I did not expect. What do you think? My acid reflux is gone. My bowel urgency of irritable bowel syndrome is gone. My joint pains, my fingers and wrists, gone. My elbows, gone. My arthritis, my knees and hips, 80% better. I gave up all my inhalers for asthma. My migraine headache's gone for the first time in 25 years. My depression is gone. My food obsessions that was labeled as bulimia, now gone.
And the common thread through all of them was they no longer had wheat in their diet?
Exactly. And we also have this on again, off again phenomenon. So you do great. You lose 30 pounds, 3 inches off your waist, feel wonderful. The first time, 20 years. People say that commonly. I feel 20 years younger. You have that one indulgence. What the heck? You've been good, right? All comes back within moments. Diarrhea, confusion, mind fog, rashes, joint pain, on again, off again, on again, off again, Lynn. So it's a very, very clear-cut cause-effect situation.
Now, what about the other proponents that say, basically you are not what you eat, and it is not the food, it is you're genetically programmed to, predisposed to congenital heart problems or diabetes or that sort of thing.
That's right. So eliminating wheat won't cure all human illness, but it will cure a ton of things. And so what I'm seeing, and one of the most exciting aspects of this whole thing, are the transformations in health we're seeing worldwide. When you see people losing not 3 pounds, but 130 pounds, when you see people no longer diabetic. I have many, many people who were including myself, by the way, formerly diabetic, no more medicines, no more injections, nothing. So while it doesn't cure all human illness, if it reduces exposure to these conditions in 50% of people, I'll take it. It's free. There's no drugs, no procedures.
So what is your recommendation for people then if they take whole grains, which is considered one of the major food groups, out of their diet? Are we going to be lacking in something, or how do we make up for that?
That's the fiction commonly propagated by the dietary community. If you replace wheat with Kool-Aid, fruit drinks, and soda, you will become deficient. But if you replace the lost calories of wheat with real foods, with meats, eggs, cheese, vegetables, avocados, olives, healthy, real foods, there is no deficiency that develops when you eliminate wheat. In fact, nutrient absorption is substantially improved when you remove the bowel irritating effects of modern wheat. So actually, nutrient status improves.
So this is a diet basically that people with celiac disease or who have gluten issues, who can't process gluten, this is something that they've been following for a while. I mean, years ago, you go to a restaurant and ask if there was gluten in the meal, people wouldn't be able to tell you, if it was or if it wasn't. You couldn't find gluten-free food at supermarkets, but now it seems to be the word of the week. It's everywhere right now. Is that because of this?
I think I contributed to it, but it's a big mistake. So gluten-free foods are a big blunder, because what they've done is they've replaced wheat with other, what I call junk carbohydrates, rice starch, cornstarch, tapioca starch, and potato starch. Well, those things have other problems, sky-high blood sugars, cataracts, arthritis, and other problems. So you don't replace wheat and gluten with gluten-free foods, because the problem is really not the gluten. The problem is the gliadin, for instance. There are many problems with this modern thing called wheat. But one of the big problems is gliadin. Gliadin is an appetite stimulant because it's an opiate that activates the opiate receptors in the human brain and causes increased appetite. Lose the wheat, lose the appetite. There's amylopectin A. That's why blood sugar goes so high after wheat. So it's not about gluten. It is about gluten for some people, but the rest of us, the 90% of the rest of Canada and the US, it's about the other things in modern wheat. And when you lose it, you have transformations of health.
Now, we actually are out of time, but I just really wanted to quickly ask you one more question, because we talked about this off camera, how wheat is different, how it looks different from my grandmother's wheat is not the wheat we see today. Is it genetically modified? Is that the problem?
All the changes introduced in modern wheat predate genetic modification using techniques that were crude, imprecise, and far worse than genetic modification. So modern wheat is an 18-inch tall plantlin. It stands so high, not the wheat we remember, 4 feet tall. It is very biochemically and genetically unique.
Okay, very interesting. Nice to meet you. Thanks so much for coming in.
My pleasure.
Dr. Bill Davis, wheat belly.
Okay, where does inflammation comes from? We know that carbs is, for all practical purposes, the same thing as sugar as far as your blood is concerned. When you consume those, then you get high blood sugars. Then high blood sugars lead to insulin response. Insulin response leads to inflammation, and inflammation leads to 80% of the diseases we have today, including arterial damage, artery damage. Habits. Successful people form the habit of doing what failures won't do. And there's your thing, Bill. That's a curtain, but it'll work. Unsuccessful people make decisions based on their current situations. Successful people make decisions based on where they want to be. Now, you probably never heard that before, but we talk about that in here all the time. What is it that you want, and why do you want it? The structural tension thing that we talk about pretty often is figure out where you're at now, figure out what you want to accomplish, what do you want to get to as far as weight is concerned, maybe in 3 months or 5 months or something like that, and then to develop the steps in order to get there, which is the habits of health is what we're talking about. These are little healthy habits that we learn all the time that help us do that. It's part of the creative process. And as an example, I can share with you this. This is a picture I found one time. Start talking about my painting again. This is the picture I found one time that I wanted to do, but I knew I couldn't do it because I'm not that good with reflections. I'm not that good about rocks, and doing the reflection upside down is really hard to do. So what I did was I took the picture that I wanted to do and put in the foreground that I wanted to put in. I can do grasses, grasses aren't that difficult. So what I did was I took the picture that I wanted to do and combined the bottom half of the picture that has the grasses in it. And so I come up with this picture here at the top.
Wow.
And I used Microsoft Publisher, so I can drop and paste and cut things, and it's kind of neat. But there's one other thing I wanted to do with this picture. I had found a picture like this. That was a hole in a tree that had left over from a forest fire. And I wanted to have that encircling my picture that I created. So what I did was put that picture in there. And so that was the painting that I wanted to try to do. I'm giving myself a lot of hard things to do all at once. And this is the picture that I come up with.
That's beautiful.
It's not very good. I did sell that one at the mall, however. So that's just like a creative process that you do with what you want to accomplish as far as your health is concerned. Now, this is another picture that I would like to do at some point, but I've got it here just to look at. So that's today's presentation, and I'm going to stop the recording, but I do want to remind anybody that's seeing this on YouTube on our Habits of Health channel, if you have any questions, just send us a message, and we'll be able to get back to you and maybe answer any questions you might have.